Hi, Room 5. Time for another teacher's reading. This chapter is called Henry. Henry had stayed hidden in the brush when the girl with the freckled arm reached through the fence and put something in the plastic bowl. He had waited until the girl ran across the green lawn towards the big brick house. Then he'd hurried to see what was in the bowl. Cheese! The girl had put little cubes of cheese in the plastic bowl. Henry had never tasted anything so good. When he had licked the bowl clean, he noticed that the freckled girl was watching him from the porch of the brick house. He wished she would come and talk to him and pet him and play with him. But something about the girl told Henry that the family in the house didn't want a dog. The way the girl whispered, the way she quickly put food in the plastic bowl and then ran off. So when the girl stopped to watch him from the porch, Henry had run away. Now he was sleeping in a pile of damp oak leaves, dreaming about things that dogs dream about, playing with dogs, chasing rabbits, eating cheese. When Henry woke from his dream, he felt lonely. He missed his friends at Wonderland, but he wouldn't go back there because something didn't seem quite right at Wonderland. Next chapter, Mavis. Mavis watched Mr Duffy sort through the papers on his desk, then make notes on a clipboard. Want to play cards? Mavis asked. Rose and I can teach you how to play. I doubt it. Right, Rose? Rose sat on a stool beside the desk and nodded. Mr Duffy wiped the back of his neck with a handkerchief. No, you girls play without me, he said. Play the kazoo, and me and Rose will make up a song, Mavis said. I'm good at making up songs. Mr Duffy shook his head and wiped his forehead with the handkerchief. Oh, I ain't played that thing in so long. I doubt I could wrestle a tune out of it, he said. Then the phone on the desk rang. Mr Duffy answered it. He said, yep, and nope, and yes sirree, and beats me, you bet your boots, and suit yourself. Mavis noticed that Rose had that worried look on it of hers, so she piped up and asked, who was that? Mr Duffy turned on the little fan on his desk and placed his coffee mug on some papers so they wouldn't blow away. That darn fool of a contractor working on that house over at Creekside Drive, he said. Then he mumbled, dumber than a bag of hammers. What did he want? Mavis asked. Wanted to complain, Mr Duffy said. Must have figured I hadn't heard enough complaints today. What did he complain about? A bunch of nonsense stuff. Like what? Mavis asked. Like the street light that's flickering down in the corner? And where was that street sweeper that was supposed to clean up that sand in the road? And why didn't I let that concrete truck in yesterday? And was he going to have to speak to the homeowners association? Speak to them about what? Rose asked in a quiet, trembly voice. Mr Duffy shuffled across the gatehouse to the coffee maker on the filing cabinet in the corner. That man's all hat and no cattle, he grumbled. What does that mean? Mavis said. Means he's all talk. Then before she could stop herself, Mavis said, I bet if we got you another dog, people wouldn't complain so much. Dang it! Why does she have to go and say that? Silence settled on the little gatehouse, except for the fan, rotating back and forth, and Mr Duffy rattly breathing. Finally, Mr Duffy broke the silence. You need to park that idea away, Miss Mavis, because I'm just too tuckered out. Ain't no dog out there that wants an old gizzard-hearted codger like me. Besides that, if you could bring a whole parcel of dogs in here, and the folks will still be griping. A dog ain't gonna change that. Mavis wanted to tell him about her plan, that if he was loving a dog again, that he wouldn't be so down in the dumps. He'd be like the Mr Duffy he'd been before she had come to Landry. Then the Mr Duffy that Rose had told her about, doing magic tricks and whistling the boogie-woogie whistle dance, and Rose would stop worrying. She wanted to tell Mr Duffy that Rose was her best friend, and that she was pretty sure that that's what you do for your best friend, help them stop worrying. But Mavis didn't tell Mr Duffy about her plan. Still, she was more determined than ever to make it work. She was going to find Henry. She was certain that finding Henry would make everything better for Mr Duffy. which would make everything better for Rose. And then she, Mavis Jetta, would be the best friend that anyone could ever have.